Hi everybody, welcome back. Hope you're all keeping well. This week we're going to be carrying on now with the layout for the model shop, and we're going to be laying the track. So let's get stuck into that. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button for me, and a thumbs up would be great too. So here we are with the baseboard. Just remind you, this is 72 inches or 186 centimeters by 12 inches or 30 centimeters wide. It's going to be a single track. We're going to have a couple of points at either end. It's going to be mirrored either end, so we're going to have a point coming off and then 2 points going off again. So we can have a little engine shed and maybe a good shed at the other end and a little station platform. We're going to put a tunnel in the middle, but today we're just going to be laying the track. I'm going to be using some foam underlay, and we'll talk more about that later, to go under the track, and we'll be soldering on some droppers onto the track again. We'll talk later about that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put all the track together, cut it to size, make sure it's all fitted in place properly and it's looking how we want it to operate, and then we'll solder on some droppers, and then we'll pin it all down and use the underlay. So let's get cracking with that. So you can see now I've got most of the track in where I want. I've got this last piece here now that I need to cut and fit, so I'm just going to show you how I do that. So obviously you can see this bit is too long here, so I need to cut it off. So what I'm going to do is just mark where I want to cut it on the rail with a pencil. Now I'm going to take my Dremel type tool. Safety glasses, very important with this because these discs can shatter. So put it in position, and you want to try and stand behind where you're cutting because you don't want the blade spinning if it shatters going into you. So stand behind it and just there we go. That's that cut. You can see that's the right size on there because it's just a little head shunt for a little small engine to go onto. So this end has already been cut, so what you might need to do is just get a file and just take any rough edges off. And then we're going to put the fish plates on. But before we do that, I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer. So I need to put some fish plates on this end, and if you can see there, focus on that, you can see you've got the chairs holding the rail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut those chairs off. Being very careful with sharp knives. If you can see now, the chairs are cut away from there. So now I can slide the fish plate underneath. Now to do that, I've got this bit of old rail that I've bent. So I can put a fish plate on the rail, like so. And then I can push it on to the rail, which is always easier said than done. Let's try that one. There we go. So there it's on there. You can see there's a little bit I just need to file off on there. Just get a flat file. Just needs a couple of rubs, that's it. Get another fish plate. Always check your fish plates to make sure they're not actually bent. Should be able to push that on there. This is one of the fiddly jobs. There we go. So both are on there now. So now I can put it into the other rail. And that's the track done. So I'll give you an overview now of this track. So we got a couple of points in here. These are just normal insole frog points. If you don't know what those are, look back at last week's video where I talked about track. There's a couple of links in there going over the different types of points. This is going to be a DC layout running with a shuttle, so I'm not putting any point motors in or anything like that, because this is for people to use the old-fashioned way, just with the points. So before we pin the track down now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder some droppers onto the track. That's to give power to the track. I won't go too much into the power and control at the moment, so I'll save that for another video. But we'll just put the droppers on now, and then we can put the cork on, pin the track down, and then that's us done for this. Here we go, we're going to put droppers onto this bit of track here. What I like to do on my layouts is every bit of track I put a set of droppers on. It just means better continuity of supply of power to the layout. So you're not just relying on the fish plates here to carry the electricity. Every piece of track is powered. So to do that, I'm going to cut away a bit of the webbing on the back of the track. And you can see that exposes a bit of the rail. I'm just going to use a little wire, a brush pencil I got here, or a file, or a little bit of sandpaper, whatever, just to roughen up the back of the rail and also give it a clean to make sure there's nothing that would stop it getting a good electrical contact. I've got two pieces of wire here, red and black, positive and negative. I use the wire in convention black to the back. I don't know if you can see here, but I've written and put narrow, back is that way, front is that way, and I'll do the same thing on the underneath of the board when I'm doing the wiring underneath. It's just a quick reference so you can see, because quite often when you're working on a layout, you've got it turned upside down or whatever, you don't know which way it is, and you can quite easily make a mistake. So if we put that track down, black to the back, that means black's going to be on that rail. So that's that one there for black, and that one for red. We've got them cut to length ready. Now we're going to get the soldering iron, and the first thing I'm going to do is tin the wires. So soldering iron's up to temperature, get a little bit of solder here. Let's move you in just a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. I got the solder iron's nice and hot. And it's just a little run of solder just up the wire. There we go. I'll move you back. Flip this around. So now I'm just going to put a little blob of solder on the back of the rail. Now to be careful not to melt the sleepers. So remember which rail is which. That one there is, so I want that one there to be black. So now it's on that side. I'm just taking the black on there. Oops. A little bit of heat. Melt into the solder, just hold it in place. Now we have a good connection, and repeat with the red. There we go, that's in place. So back. There we go, we've got our wires. Where are we? Got our wires there attached. And then it's just a matter of drilling a hole in the baseboard and running the wires down through. So I'm going to do the rest of the track, put droppers on them, and then we'll come back and we'll actually pin the track down along with some of the cork. As you can see, got this section done now. It's all pinned down. Cork underlay is done. Got this last little section here to do, so I'll show you how I do it. Just move the camera in a little bit closer. So for this, I'm using 2mm cork as underlay. It comes in rolls like this. You can get multiple rolls off eBay, Amazon, that quite cheaply. I cut it into strips then for putting under the track, and then for points I just put the point down and then just cut around it. So you get the shape you want. And there you have your underlay there for the cork. So the idea of using the cork is twofold. It helps with the sound deadening, because this is basically a drum here, and with the trains going over, it can cause a bit of a racket, so it helps with that. And also, it helps you create a ballast shoulder when you're doing your ballasting. So we'll pop this in now. Slide the cork in underneath. If you've got a little gap, it doesn't really matter. Now we're going to take the track pins, and this already has holes in it for the pins, so we're just going to tap it in. Not all the way, because we don't want to hit the rails and cause any damage. So I've got an old bolt here. I put over the pin. And we don't want to put it in too tight that it bends the sleeper, and then it can cause the gauge of the track to alter and give you derailments. There are other ways of putting track down. You can simply glue it down. They use Copytex glue. If you remember from your school days, it's that glue that has that fishy smell to it. Put that down on the underside of the track and the top of the underlay, and just put it down, fit it into place, and then leave some weights on it overnight to dry. You can also get little tiny screws instead of the track nails to put them in. I just like using track pins. It's quick, it's easy, it's done. And then once I've ballasted it and everything, because the ballast and the glue will hold the track in place, I can go back then afterwards and just take the pins out, and then you won't see the pins. So we'll move on now, and we'll do these bits of track. So got the droppers on there. What I'm going to do is push the droppers through. It just makes it easier for putting in place. Now these are bits of flexi track, so I'm going to put that in place. And then for helping keeping the track straight, you can use track setters here, or indeed West Hill Wagon Works do a whole set of them. You can see here there's different curves. These are plastic. They're a bit more pliable. They work just as well as the track setters. The track setters are just a little bit firmer. Either one will do the job when you're laying track. So if you're laying flexi track, you can use these to put a nice curve in. So I'm just going to eyeball this one because I want a little bit of a curve coming around here. So, and with using the 2mm cork, it does bend quite easily under the track, so it will give you nice curves. Slide it up. Just put it in. So that's about where I want the track. Now, because this is flexi track, let's move that camera back a wee bit. Because this is flexi track, it doesn't have holes pre-drilled in it. So this is where you need a little pin vise and make your own holes in the track. There, it's gone through. The pin, pop it in, tap it in gently. That's the pin in. I can put another one here. There's already a hole drilled here. There we go. And that's it in place now. Now I just need to go through, drill a hole through the centre of the sleepers there, and then I can push the wires down through. So that's what you need. I use the track pins. I use the Gauge Master track pins. I find they're a good length and the right size. The Hornby ones are a bit short and stubby, and the Pico pins, unless you're putting it into Sundella board, they're a bit too weak. They're very thin. So that's the basics of putting the track in. There you can see now the track is all laid. I've drilled the holes, pulled the wires underneath. It's all got its underlay, it's all pinned down, it's all nice and secure. Just another thing to point out, if you can see here, where some of the sleepers had to be cut away, the edge, just so we can flick that over. And also you'll note here where it comes down into the point, some of the sleepers had to be trimmed so it would fit. But that's the basics of track laying there. Now let's put a loco on it, connect it to some power and see if it runs. Power's connected up, giving the track a bit of a clean. Let's see, I've got a loco down this end. Let's see if it makes it up to the other end. There we go, send it back down. We'll change the points. There we can see it's working. I've only just connected the power to this point here, so at the moment it's relying on the fish plates. I will flip it over in a later video when we're doing the wiring, and we'll connect all the droppers up. But this is going to be a DC layout, running little trains like this just up and down as a demonstration line in the model shop. So I think we'll leave it there. So there we go, guys. Laying track, the basics. If you've got any questions or comments, put them down below. Next week we'll be looking at ballasting, so we'll be ballasting on this track and you can see how I do that. And a big thank you as always to my patrons and channel members. The names will be scrolling down here. If you'd like to become one, links are down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button for me, all that helps. And I'll pop another video here and here, the subscribe button in the middle. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.